You're lying flat on a gurney, the cheap vinyl worn raw at the edges. Your wrists are pinned down by cold, heavy leather straps. This isn't the hasty work of a street thug. It's the methodical binding of the state. Clinical, lawful, impossible to fight. The sharp, sterile sting of rubbing alcohol burns the back of your throat, a jarring contrast to the scent you've lived and breathed for the last 16 years. Gunpowder, stale sweat, and copper-tinged blood. A technician stands over you, snapping on latex gloves. He doesn't look at you like a human being. To the state, you're not a person anymore. You're just protocol. The needle hovers, waiting to find a vein. The media circus outside these prison walls is calling it justice. But you know the truth. This isn't justice. This is waste disposal. The liquidation of a toxic asset. You aren't afraid of dying. What's making your heart hammer against your ribs is a single thought flashing through your mind. What if I had made a different call back then? And then, the cocktail drops. As the lethal chemicals flood your bloodstream, the room fades to black. Your memories shatter into jagged little pieces. And suddenly, you are pulled back to a rain-slicked night, to an alleyway choking on the stench of rust and decay, to the exact moment where it all began. You're 16, a scrawny kid in a threadbare school uniform, standing under the sickly yellow bleed of a street lamp. The rain isn't heavy, but it's just enough to soak through the piece of paper trembling in your grip. Scholarship application. You used to buy into the lie that if you just studied hard enough, if you just ground it out, you'd claw your way out of this slum. You wanted to be a politician, not for the power grab, but because you were sick to your stomach watching your mother stand in endless, humiliating lines just to beg for her monthly meds. Back home, she's lying in a sickbed. Her breathing is shallow. Every ragged intake of air sounds like it could be her last. Your little sister is sitting right beside her, clutching her hand. She's too young to understand the cruelest truth of this neighborhood. Poverty doesn't kill you with a bullet. It kills you slowly. It bleeds you dry. So you stand there, in the rain, staring down the barrel of two choices. Let your mother die, or do something. That's when you spot it. A beat-up piece of cardboard propped crookedly under a dripping awning. Fast cash, no collateral, 5,000 pesos, pocket change to the rest of the world. But to you, it's the razor-thin line between life and a body bag. You know it's a trap. You know the math in this part of town never works out in your favor. But you also know one absolute, terrifying truth. You are out of time. The room is tight, claustrophobic, windowless. Just a single, jaundiced bulb swinging gently from the ceiling. You're sitting across from a man. He doesn't threaten you. He doesn't raise his voice. There's no strong-arming. He just smiles. A smile that is entirely too calm for a room like this. 5,000 pesos, low interest. He pitches it casually, like a salesman offering a neighborhood discount. You sign. You don't read the fine print. You don't ask questions. You just put pen to paper. Your sweat smudges the ink. Your fingers tremor slightly. But you sign anyway, and that is the very first time you sign off on a decision that you will spend the next 20 years paying for. In that moment, you have no idea what you've just done. You think you're throwing your mother a lifeline, but the cold, hard truth? You've just sold your own future to the devil. 3 days later, your mother flatlines. She didn't even live long enough to spend the cash. You're sitting on the stoop of your cramped, quiet house. It isn't raining, but the chill settling deep into your bones has never felt colder. And then, they show up. They aren't there to offer their condolences. They're there to collect. The front door splinters open with a violent crash. 3 men step inside. No small talk, no pleasantries. Strictly business. You hit the floor hard. A heavy boot connects with your gut, knocking every last ounce of oxygen from your lungs. Before your brain can even register the ambush, another kick catches you in the ribs. Crack. That sound. It's a sound that's going to haunt you for the rest of your life. One of the enforcers squats down right in your line of sight. He strikes a match, casually lighting a cigar. The thick smoke drifts slowly in the stagnant air. His voice is deadpan, entirely devoid of emotion. 7 days. He drops a slip of paper onto the floorboards in front of you. Principal, interest, the whole damn thing. Before you can choke out a single syllable, he tilts his head. His dead eyes drift toward the doorway. Your little sister is standing there, trembling. If you don't pay up, he lets the silence hang for a beat. Then, that same calm, sickening smile creeps back onto his face. The little girl covers your tab. No further explanation required. You get it. louder and clearer than any words ever spoken. That night, you sit alone in the dark. Zero cash, nobody to call, no exit strategy. And for the first time in your 16 years of existence, you actually consider selling your own body, just to buy some time. But then, the phone buzzes. No caller ID. You answer it, there's no introduction. Just one single, chilling question on the other end of the line. Do you want to live? 4 years later. You're 20. That night, it wasn't raining, but the air was thick, suffocating, like the whole city was holding its breath. You get a text, short, cryptic, 10:40 p.m., Warehouse 12. Don't be late. No explanation, no point of contact, just that. You show up 10 minutes early. The paranoia of a survivor who knows one mistake means a body bag. The warehouse district sits on the city's ragged edge. Rusted iron gates, a flickering street lamp bleeding sickly yellow light over cracked concrete. It's too quiet. No lookouts, no trucks, none of the usual signals. The hairs on the back of your neck stand up. Something is wrong. 10:41 p.m. A black SUV rolls into the yard. The rear door opens. A man steps out. No introductions needed, you already know. It's the boss. You've never met him face to face. Only heard the voice. Only read the encrypted drops. But the aura is unmistakable. Ice cold, dead still, lethal. He barely takes a step before you hear it, the squawk of a police radio. Faint, but clear as a bell. Target is in position. Your heart stops dead in your chest. You dart a glance into the dark. And then you see them. Flashlights. Not one, three. Closing in from 3 different angles. Cops. Zero time to think. If the boss goes down, you die. Not by the cops, by the syndicate's own twisted ecosystem. In that split second, you have 2 options. Make a run for it, or freeze, and go down with the ship. But you take option 3. You kill your engine. Click. A tiny sound, but it pivots the entire night. You turn to the boss. Your first words ever spoken to him, face to face. If the engine's running, they're gonna breach right now. He looks at you. Stone-faced. Not a word. You pop your door. You step out. Your legs feel like lead, trembling, but you force yourself to walk. You walk straight into the blinding beams of the flashlights. Hands in the air. Your voice is shaking, but loud enough to carry. Officer, I'm totally lost. I'm looking for Warehouse 12. The beams pin you like a bug on a board. A metallic, hardened voice barks out. Freeze. Do not move. You swallow hard. But you know the brutal math. If they advance another 30 feet, it's game over. So you talk. You babble. You spew a nervous, incoherent word salad. Anything to buy the clock. Meanwhile, behind you, swallowed by the shadows, the boss vanishes. 30 seconds. Sounds like nothing. But standing in that spotlight, it feels like a goddamn lifetime. Then, the roar of an engine. Around the back of the lot, the cops whip their heads around. Split up pursuit. You get shoved aside, eating the cold, hard concrete. They sprint past you. You lie there, barely breathing, paralyzed. 5 minutes later, a car rolls back into the yard. The door opens. The boss steps out. He looks down at you. Silence stretches for a few agonizing seconds. And then, for the first time, he smiles. You're not as stupid as I thought. Just one sentence. But it rewrites the rest of your life. From that night on, you're no longer just a transporter. You get called into the back rooms. You sit in on the blueprints. You're actually allowed to speak. You start to decode the machine from the inside out. Never run the same route twice. Always lay a decoy. Always have a fall guy, ready to take the hit. And then, another realization hits you like a freight train. You aren't on the outside looking in anymore. You're inside. And the most terrifying part of it all, you're starting to get really good at it. After that warehouse incident, everything in your life shifts. It's quiet, subtle, but loud enough to let you know you've just crossed a threshold you can never walk back from. You're 23. The burner phone stops buzzing with cryptic coordinates and timestamps. Instead, you get summoned. Straight into a windowless back room of a rundown dive bar, where a jaundiced bulb hangs by a wire, and the air is so thick with stale cigar smoke and cheap liquor, you have to chew it just to breathe. For the first time, you aren't waiting out in the cold for marching orders. You take a seat. You're surrounded by faces you used to only catch glimpses of in the rearview mirror, the shot callers. The kind of men who can nod their heads and make a human being evaporate off the face of the earth without leaving a smudge. But what sends a shiver down your spine isn't the lethal energy radiating off them. It's the fact that they're asking for your opinion. This route look clean to you? How's the police presence in this sector lately? You answer, cautious at first, then precise, and eventually, with cold-blooded confidence. You realize that your memory, your situational awareness, the exact survival instincts that kept you breathing in the slums have been weaponized. They are now high-value assets in a syndicate built entirely on absolute control and calculated malice. But that isn't the worst part. Your new gig isn't driving or running lookout anymore. Now, you're riding along a sanitized corporate buzzword for being the boots on the ground during handoffs, where a single flinch costs you your life. That night, the assignment is to babysit a briefcase to a downtown hotel. Bright lights, valet parking. It's so suspiciously legitimate, it makes your skin crawl. Your ride-along is Min, the only surviving ghost from your past life. The kid who used to sit with you on the school steps, splitting stale bread down the middle. The only person in the world who knew about that 5,000 peso loan. He resurfaced not long ago, right around the time you started moving up the food chain. Too right around the time. Here, you're doing well for yourself lately, Min chuckles. His tone is light, airy, but his eyes do a rapid-fire sweep of the briefcase cuffed to your grip. You don't answer right away, partially because of the rules of the trade, but mostly because you aren't entirely sure you can trust him anymore. The elevator ride is a steel coffin. It's so quiet you can hear the blood rushing in your ears. Min's silence is heavy, unnatural, a chasm carved out by dirty money and buried secrets that neither of you wants to acknowledge. The suite doors slide open. 2 suits are waiting inside. No greetings, no handshakes, just dead-eyed stares. You drop the case on the table, pop the latches, cash. Stacks of it, then another briefcase slides across the glass toward you. You don't need to pop the lid to know what's inside. That's the exact moment it hits you. You've gone too far. You're no longer a courier. You're no longer a spectator. You are turning the gears of the machine. On the ride back, Min shatters the quiet. You ever think about cashing out? A simple question, but it slides between your ribs like a shiv. You stare out the passenger window, watching the city neon bleed into blurry streaks against the glass. Just a little longer, you mutter, mostly trying to convince yourself. 1 more score, then I'm out. Min doesn't say another word. He just gives a slight nod. But you don't see it. When you turn your head away, his eyes shift. They go cold, calculating. And that is the precise moment where, if you had just been paying attention, you would have realized a terrifying truth. You aren't the only one playing the game. And maybe, you aren't the smartest guy in the room anymore. After that night at the hotel, the filter comes off. You don't look at the world the same way anymore. You aren't just on the outside looking in. You've touched the rod. You're 24. You have money. You have status. You take the orders. You analyze the angles. You make the call. On paper, everything is running like a well-oiled machine. But inside, something is knocked off its axis. You start avoiding mirrors. Not because you're exhausted, because you don't recognize the dead eyes staring back at you. One evening, you clock out early. It's the first time in a long time you actually sit down for a home-cooked meal. Your little sister sits across from you, dead silent. The only sound in the room is the dull, heavy clink of silverware scraping against porcelain. You've been coming home late, she says. You nod. You don't offer an alibi. You glance down at the crisp, white sneakers on her feet, the ones you bought her. You used to look at things like that and feel a twisted sense of pride. Now, they just feel like an indictment. What exactly do you do? She asks. A simple question, but your throat goes dry. You can't answer it. You force a hollow, plastic smile. Just regular work. She nods. She doesn't push it, but it's that exact silence that makes it feel like the oxygen is being sucked out of the room. That night, sleep never comes. You lie flat on your back, staring up at the ceiling in the pitch black, and you start tallying it all up. Every mapped out route, every executive decision. How many bodies ended up in the dirt just because you gave the green light and said a route was safe? But here is the most terrifying part. The very next morning, you get right back to the grind. You put on your jacket. You walk out the door. You answer the burner phone. Business as usual. Like absolutely nothing happened. And that's when a grim, undeniable truth hits you. A human being can get used to anything, even the crushing weight of their own sins. And that is what truly terrifies you. A single desperate thought takes root in the back of your mind. I need to get out. But almost instantly, a darker, colder voice whispers back. You really think they're just going to let you walk? 25. That thought, I need to get out, doesn't fade. It lingers, growing louder by the day. You start pulling back. You stop taking on new jobs. You let the burner ring a few extra times before answering. You keep your distance. You think you're managing the fade out. You couldn't be more wrong. 3 days later, a text drops. 8 p.m. The usual spot. You show up. The dive bar is dark. The stench of cheap liquor is overpowering. A jaundiced bulb flickers overhead. The broker is already waiting in the booth, unsmiling. You planning on retiring? He asks. You don't beat around the bush. After this next run, I'm done. He lets the silence hang for a few agonizing seconds. Then, he slides his phone across the sticky table. A photograph. Your little sister, walking through her school gates, shot tight, point-blank range. Your fists clench under the table. In this line of work, he drawls slowly, nobody puts in 2 weeks' notice. You say nothing. He leans in, dropping his voice to a lethal whisper. You know the routes. You know the players. You aren't day labor anymore. He pauses. You're an asset. The air in the room turns to concrete. You stand up. You don't look back. Outside, you're gasping for air. Your heart is hammering against your ribs. You pull out your phone, about to dial your sister's number. Your thumb hovers over the screen, stops dead. If you make that call, you just drag her deeper into the crosshairs. You pocket the phone. That night, you scramble your route home. You burn 3 different detours. A car is still tailing you. You hit the brakes. The tail stops with you. Nobody steps out. Just the high beams, blinding you in the rearview mirror. The message is loud and clear. The next morning, Min shows up, unannounced. You holding up okay? He asks. The tone is casual, but his eyes are dead serious. You nod. Min holds your gaze for a beat too long. Then he mutters, almost under his breath. Some things you just can't walk away from. You lock eyes with him. What the hell are you talking about? Min just shrugs. Just a piece of advice. He turns and walks away. You stand there, all alone. For the first time, the brutal reality clicks into place. You aren't just being watched. You are being kept in a cage. And just maybe, it isn't just the syndicate holding the leash. 27. You're no longer just trying to survive. You've graduated. You start getting pulled into the back rooms. No windows, no lenses, no paper trails, just you. And blueprints that, if leaked, would tear this city apart down to the studs. At first, you think you're just there to be a fly on the wall. But then, they start asking for your input. Which route is cleaner? Do we push the drop time or hold the line? You catching any heat from the feds? And you answer. Pinpoint accuracy. Ice cold, without a single tremor in your voice. A chilling realization sets in. You aren't faking it anymore. You understand the machine. You read the underworld like a roadmap. You know when a setup is waiting. You know when to dump the weight. And you know exactly when to cut a guy loose. But that isn't the sickest part. One night, a new kind of ticket gets punched. Not running surveillance. Not playing lookout. It's a loyalty test. Someone in the crew is suspected of catching a bug. Your job is strictly defined. Drive him to a location. Ensure it's a one-way trip. No briefings, no questions asked. You just execute. In the car, he's riding shotgun, smiling, shooting the breeze like it's just another Tuesday. He talks about his family, about how he's looking to cash out before the year is up. Your knuckles go white on the steering wheel. Your heart is redlining, but your face is carved from stone. You feed yourself the same old lie. Just this one last time, and then I'm out. The tires crunch to a halt outside a gutted, rusted-out warehouse. You step out. You open his door for him. And then, you don't look back. The heavy metal door slams shut. A sharp, dry crack echoes out. And then, dead silence. You stand out in the cold. You don't turn around. You don't need a visual. You know exactly what just went down in the dark. That night, you don't sleep. A wink. But the next morning, you clock in. Business as usual. Like absolutely nothing in the world ever happened. And that's the moment the brutal truth finally clicks. You aren't just playing the survivor anymore. You have become the machine. 28. You start mapping out a ghost protocol, a plan to vanish from the very underworld you helped build. Walk away from it all. Burn the comms. Drop completely off the grid. You calculate every angle. The cash is stashed. The forged papers are within reach. You've even picked out a quiet ghost town in another state. For the first time, you can actually see the exit sign. And then, the floor falls out from under you. A call comes in, unannounced, unencrypted. Just one sentence. Tonight, 8 p.m., do not be late. You know right then in your gut this isn't a standard sit-down. When you step into the room, the air is different. Thicker. Nobody is talking. Nobody is making eye contact. In the center of the room, a man is tied to a chair. His face is a bloody, unrecognizable pulp. You recognize him. It's a guy you used to run with. A hawk. Top tier. Meticulous. The kind of operator who never makes a mistake. Before your brain can even process the scene, the boss locks eyes with you, and he asks one simple question. Do you know why he's sitting in that chair? You don't answer. You wouldn't dare. He tosses a burner phone onto the table. The screen lights up. Texts, blueprints, routes. Every single piece of it. Highly classified internal intel. He had tried to flip to the feds. Your heart skips a beat. Not for him. But because you realize that is the exact same exit strategy you've been drafting in your own head, the boss speaks, his voice a low, gravelly crawl. Everyone thinks they're the first one to figure out a way out. Then he stares at you, a fraction of a second too long. But nobody is ever the first. The room goes sub-zero. You understand. Nobody needs to spell it out. This isn't an execution. This is a broadcast. A message meant specifically for you. A single gunshot shatters the silence. Sharp, unhesitating. You don't flinch. You don't look. But you know it's over. The boss stands up. He walks past you, stops right at your shoulder, and whispers, barely loud enough to hear. If you're brewing up any ideas, just remember, you aren't the only one who pays the toll. The heavy door clicks shut. You're left standing alone in that room. The metallic tang of blood, the acrid sting of cordite, the cold sweat of pure terror. This time, the illusion shatters completely. There is no way out. You are down to one single choice. Keep playing the game, or end up in a box. And the most paralyzing part of it all, if you go down, you won't be the only one going into the ground. After that night, you bury the exit strategy. Not because you surrender, but because you realize a brutal truth. Just thinking about walking away can get people killed. You go back to the grind. Business as usual. No questions, no pushback, no reactions. And in this twisted world, that's exactly what earns their trust. 31. You aren't just surviving the system anymore. You are the system. You start catching different kinds of assignments. You get the manifests, names, locations, timestamps. You don't pull the trigger yourself, but you're the one holding the pen. You make the call. Who walks? Who stays? Who disappears? A chilling realization washes over you. You don't have to get blood on your own hands anymore, but every single drop of it flows right past your desk. One evening, you get the call. It's not a rendezvous at the rusted-out warehouse. It's a different kind of room entirely. Sterile, pristine, quiet, too quiet. The boss is sitting there. No bodyguards, no muscle. He doesn't even look up at first. He just drops one question into the dead air. Do you know why you're still breathing? You don't answer. He gives a slow, hollow smile. Because you know how to play by the rules. The silence stretches out. Then, he slides something across the polished wood, a thick manila folder. Inside, surveillance glossies, dossiers, itineraries. These aren't street-level hustlers. These are the untouchables, the people who move the needle. Corporate executives, politicians, old money. You look up, and for the very first time, you see the actual, terrifying blueprint of this empire. The boss speaks, his voice a low rumble. We aren't running the streets anymore. We are the infrastructure. You swallow hard, not out of panic, but because the sheer gravity of it hits you. You are in so deep you can't even see the light. He locks eyes with you. Your mandate is simple. Ensure everything executes exactly to spec. It isn't a threat. It isn't strong-arming. It sounds like a standard corporate briefing. But you know exactly what this is. This isn't a promotion. This is the final lock clicking into place. From this second forward, you are no longer an employee. You are a structural beam in the machine, a piece that cannot be removed without bringing the whole house down. You pick up the dossier. Your hands don't shake, not even a millimeter. And that is the most terrifying detail of all. Because deep down in the dark, you realize a truth you never wanted to swallow. You aren't being forced to do this anymore. You are adapting. 33. And the past finally comes hunting for you. You were getting too comfortable in your new skin. Everything was running smooth, too smooth. And that is exactly what made you drop your guard back when you were 29. 29. One night, stepping out of a rendezvous, someone blocks your path, unhurried. No aggressive moves, just standing there, like he's been waiting a lifetime for you to walk by. You recognize the face instantly. A ghost from the old neighborhood? Someone who knew you, long before the blood, the money, and the tailored suits. He stares at you for a long beat. No shock, no fear, just pure, unfiltered disappointment. You really did change. You don't answer. You don't deny it, either. He steps into your personal space, dropping his voice to a gravelly whisper. I know what you're involved in. Your heart skips a beat. Your hand instinctively balls into a fist by your side. But your face remains carved from ice. So what? You reply. He doesn't flinch. You actually think you have this under control? A heavy, suffocating silence falls between you. Then, he drops the hammer. I'm working with the feds. No beating around the bush. No loyalty tests. Just straight up. You stare at him. For the first time in years, you feel yourself getting yanked backward. The past. The kid you used to be. It all comes rushing back in a single violent heartbeat. He holds something out to you. A tiny piece of tech. A wire. Just help me out this one time. Feed us the intel. We'll pull you out. You don't take it right away. You know the score. This isn't a proposal. This is a door. The very last exit strategy left on the board, but also the deadliest door you could ever walk through. You ask, what about my family? He looks you dead in the eye. We can protect them. You let out a dry, hollow scoff. You don't buy it. Not completely. But you can't exactly afford to ignore it either. He delivers the final blow. You're running out of clock. They're already suspicious of you. Then, he turns and walks away. No pressure. No waiting around for an answer. Just leaving you standing there. With the crushing weight of the choice, you stand alone in the dark, the drive resting in your palm. It's tiny, but it's heavy. Heavier than any weapon you've ever held. You see the two roads laid out perfectly in front of you. Route 1. Keep playing the game. Temporary safety. A slow, inevitable death. Route 2. Flip. Immediate, catastrophic danger, but a fighting chance to actually live. You close your fist tight over the device. For the first time in a very, very long time. You aren't thinking like a cog in the syndicate's machine. You're thinking for yourself, and you understand the grim, terrifying reality. No matter which path you take, there will be blood. You didn't answer that night. You didn't reach out. You did absolutely nothing. But you didn't throw the wire away either. You hid it deep, in a place even you wouldn't have to look at very often. 35. You start playing a game with only two possible outcomes. You survive, or you get erased. On the surface, everything is business as usual. You still attend the sit-down. You still take the orders. You still process the operations like absolutely nothing has changed. But, underneath, everything has shifted. You start watching closer, not to do the job better, but to document. Who says what? Who meets who? Timestamps. Coordinates. You don't commit a single detail to paper. You keep it all locked in your head. A living, breathing schematic. Then, the window opens. A closed-door inner circle meeting. Tight roster. Just your direct superiors. And the boss. You know, this is exactly the golden goose the feds have been starving for. You go back to your spot before the meet. Pry open the stash. Pull the wire out. It's smaller than you remember. Weightless. But your hands? For the very first time, they shake. Not because you're terrified of catching a bullet, but because you know this is the point of no return. You tell yourself, just this one last time, the exact same lie you fed yourself to cross over into this world in the first place. And now, you're using it again to burn it all down. You tape the wire to your chest, tight against the skin, invisible, silent. You check it once, twice. Then, you walk. The boardroom is exactly the same as always. Windowless, dead, quiet, suffocating. The boss is already there, sitting perfectly still, watching every single man walk through the door. When his eyes sweep past you, they stop, just for a fraction of a second. But it's enough to make your chest seize. You take your seat. Force your breathing into a steady, normal rhythm. The sit-down starts. The ledgers, the supply lines, the names, everything you hear is pure gold. You don't look down. You don't touch the wire. You just sit there, like you always do. But you know, every single syllable echoing off these walls is going straight to the tape. Mid-sentence, the boss stops dead. Nobody speaks. Nobody moves a muscle. He scans the room, slow, deliberate. Then he asks, "Is anyone at this table doing something they shouldn't be?" The air freezes solid. Nobody breathes a word. You feel a bead of cold sweat trace its way down your spine. Your heartbeat is deafening. So loud you swear the entire room can hear it thumping against your ribs. The boss stands up, taking measured, heavy steps, pacing around the perimeter of the table. He stops, right behind your chair. Not a word. He just stands there. You don't turn around. You don't flinch. You barely pull oxygen into your lungs. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, an absolute, agonizing eternity. Then he keeps walking, like nothing ever happened. The meeting resumes, but you know, you just walked along the razor's edge. When the sit-down wraps, you stand up. You walk out. You don't run. You don't rush. You just stroll, like business as usual. But the second that heavy door clicks shut behind you, it hits you. Your palms are absolutely drenched in sweat. You actually pulled it off, but you also understand with terrifying clarity, from this exact second forward, you aren't playing the middle anymore. You have picked a side, and if you get burned, there isn't a soul on this earth who can save you. 36. You have it all. Power, money, control. And absolutely zero way back. There is only delaying the inevitable collapse. That night, you stand alone in a bulletproof glass penthouse on the top floor. Below you, the entire city is asleep. The yellow streetlights roll out like a sprawling, endless carpet. Beautiful, but freezing cold. You hold a glass of heavy liquor, but you don't take a sip. You can't taste anything anymore. Not the alcohol, not the victories, not a single goddamn emotion. An encrypted message flashes across your screen. Just 4 words. We have a problem. You don't ask for clarification. You know that in this world, a problem only ever means one thing. Somebody is about to die. 10 minutes later, the boardroom doors swing open. The man who walks in is one of your top-tier lieutenants. His eyes are different tonight. He doesn't bow his head. He doesn't avoid your gaze. He just drops a flash drive onto the mahogany table. Doesn't say a word. You plug it in. The monitor flickers to life. Video files. Internal CCTV footage. It's one of your most critical transit hubs. But what makes your heart skip a beat isn't the feds breaching the perimeter. It's the guy leading them in. A familiar face. Too familiar. So familiar you don't even need to watch the rest of the tape to know exactly how this plays out. It's the guy you trusted. The guy you elevated. The one guy you thought was completely unflippable. You don't smash your fist on the table. You don't fly into a blind rage. You don't yell. You just sit in silence. A dead, suffocating silence. Because you understand the golden rule of this empire. Betrayal isn't the exception. It's the standard operating procedure. Your lieutenant finally speaks, his voice trembling just a fraction. "We need to scrub this right now, before it's too late." You don't answer. You replay the footage one more time. Slow. Agonizingly slow. Then, you kill the screen. You deliver a single line. Almost a whisper, but cold enough to drop the room temperature by 10 degrees. "No, we don't touch him yet." Dead silence in the room. You look up, and the eyes staring back at him belong to a man whose humanity checked out a long time ago. Let him walk them in deeper. A heavy pause. This time, we aren't just putting one body in the ground. You stand up. You walk out of the room. Outside, the city lights are still burning. But you know the truth. The hurricane has already made landfall. And this time, it isn't about the cash. It isn't about the crown. It's about survival. You don't make your move right away. You wait. In this world, the guy who panics is the first one in a body bag. 3 days. You don't touch him. No calls. No obvious tales. You let everything play out business as usual. But beneath that surface, you're laying a snare, a trap big enough to swallow both sides whole. You let the high-value supply lines keep running. You even purposely leave them a little loose. Lighter security, easier to spot. Your lieutenants don't get it. A few of them start getting suspicious, but you don't offer an explanation. Because you know the golden rule. If the prey doesn't see an opening, it won't take the bait. Night 4, the text comes in. A route's been compromised. You aren't surprised. You just ask, where? Warehouse 12, outskirts of town. You smile. For the first time in months, this isn't a glitch. This is the signal. You head out there yourself. No convoy, no muscle, just one car, flying solo. You step out. The air is biting cold. Too quiet. So quiet, it's lethal. You walk inside. The darkness swallows everything. And then, the floodlights hit. Freeze. The voice. It doesn't belong to your crew. It's law enforcement. In a split second, you have options. Make a run for it. Fight back. Or surrender. But you don't do any of that. You raise your hands, nice and slow. Flashlight beams burn directly into your face. The heavy thud of tactical boots rushing in. They think they've won, but they have no idea. They're standing right in the middle of a much bigger trap. Around the back of the warehouse, an explosion rips through the air. Not huge, but loud enough to snap every neck in that direction. Then, tires screech as another vehicle peels out. The cops panic. Half the squad breaks off for the pursuit, exactly like you drew it up. You lower your hands, look dead into the commander's eyes, and drop a line that freezes him in his tracks. You're earlier than I expected. The air turns to ice. You aren't playing the prey anymore. You're running the board. But that isn't the worst part. From high up in the rafters, a metallic click echoes out. You look up, a red dot, resting dead center on your forehead. Sniper. And this time, it's not the cops. You realize it a fraction of a second too late. The rat didn't just sell you out. He sold out both sides. You are the bait and the sacrificial lamb. In that exact moment, one absolute truth hits you. All the blueprints, all the calculated moves, they mean absolutely nothing when you underestimate the sheer depths of human greed. 36. And you finally realize you were never the one running the board. A finger squeezes the trigger. Everything cuts to black. The gunshot cracks, but you don't die. A massive force yanks you hard to the side. The bullet grazes your temple, burying itself deep into the concrete wall behind you. Your ears are ringing. The world violently spins. Before your brain can even process the near miss, a familiar voice cuts through the chaos. Urgent, but dead serious. Stay down. If you want to live, listen to me. You turn your head. The guy who just pulled you to the deck isn't one of your lieutenants. He isn't syndicate muscle. It's a third party. A ghost you thought faded out of your life a lifetime ago. A cop. A former friend. The guy who once tried to pull you off this dark path and failed. He doesn't even look at you. He just shoves a tiny earpiece into your hand. Listen to me, he snaps, his eyes still scanning the dark perimeter. You are completely out of options. Another explosion rocks the yard outside. The cops start returning heavy fire. Chaotic footsteps, shouting. We know everything, he continues. Your entire network. The data, the transactions, the political ties, all of it. You freeze. Your guy sold you out a long time ago, he says. But what he doesn't know is that we're playing him too. The twist. The rat thought he was running the board, but in reality, he's just a pawn in a much bigger game. You let out a laugh, a harsh, raspy sound, bitter to the core. So, what now? You ask. He looks you dead in the eyes for the very first time. It isn't the look of an old friend. It's the look of a man delivering a final ultimatum. Either you die right here, a stray bullet chips the concrete inches from your skull, or you flip. A heavy pause. In that split second, your entire life flashes before your eyes. Your mother, your little sister, that rain-slicked night, that goddamn 5,000 peso loan. You've gone way too far. But just maybe, there is still one road back. What do you need me to do? He doesn't answer right away. He just hands you a burner phone. Call him out. You punch in the numbers. The line rings. Once. Twice. Then, the other end picks up. Is it done? His voice echoes through the receiver. Calm. Smug. You stare dead ahead into the dark. You drop your voice. Terrifyingly steady. It's done. And just like that, a brand new trap is set. The call goes dead. You lower the phone. Your hands aren't shaking anymore. Things have gone way too far for fear. The cop looks at you, gives a sharp nod. The signal. Go. In a matter of seconds, the entire atmosphere shifts. The warehouse lights cut out. Pitch black swallows the room. Then, the eerie green sweep of night vision goggles. The heavy, synchronized thud of tactical boots. No chaotic scrambling like before. SWAT. They aren't putting on a show this time. They're on a hunt. You get yanked hard against the concrete wall. The commander's voice crackles over the earpiece. Target is on the move. Prepare to take him alive. On the other end of the line, the rat swallowed the hook. He trusts you. He believes you scrubbed the scene. He thinks he's walking into a victory lap. But the reality? He's walking straight into his own open grave. Thermal imaging flares up on the commander's monitor. A vehicle rolls to a stop 200 meters out. The door pops. He steps out. Slow, calculated. He still has absolutely no idea. You watch through a crack in the drywall. Your heart slows down. Not out of panic, but because the end of the line is finally here. Target confirmed. Got eyes. A single second of dead air. Execute. It all goes down in under 10 seconds. The floodlights kick on. Blinding white. Freeze! Get your hands in the air. He freezes, caught dead in his tracks. Tactical units swarm him from every angle. Fast, surgical, zero margin for error. Then, a gunshot rings out. But it didn't come from him. It came from the perimeter. You whip your head around. Another silhouette in the dark. A third player. The wild card nobody put on the board. A syndicate shooter. He isn't here to play rescue. He's here to scrub the loose ends. The bullet is flying straight for your chest. In a split second, the cop shoves you to the concrete. The round buries itself deep into his shoulder. You freeze. Time grinds to a halt. More gunfire erupts. Total chaos takes over. SWAT returns heavy fire. The shooter drops. The rat is slammed into the dirt. Cuff. Everything is over. But nobody won. You look down at the cop. Dark blood is soaking through his shirt. He's still conscious, staring right at you. Don't. Go back. His voice is fading. But the message is crystal clear. And for the very first time, after all the blood, all the lies, all the calculated moves, you feel something piercing through the numbness. Regret. Not because you're about to get locked in a cage, but because somebody actually chose to save your life, even when you absolutely didn't deserve it. Ambulance sirens wail in the distance, cutting through the cold air. You sit there on the ground, hands cuffed tight behind your back, watching the whole damn thing burn to ashes. The empire, the power, the illusion, all of it erased in a single night. You didn't die, but a part of you died a very long time ago. 39. You're standing in a courtroom, no longer the mastermind, no longer running the board. The evidence, the ledgers, the wiretaps, the names, and your own voice echoing through the speakers. You don't deny it. No alibis, no excuses. You spill it, all of it. How the machine operates, how the cash gets washed, how the politicians are bought and paid for. You become the star witness. The guy who stood at the absolute pinnacle of the empire is now the one tearing it down to the studs. The gavel falls. It's not lethal injection. It's a plea deal. The trade-off is spending the rest of your life haunted by the ghosts of what you've done. The cop, the one who pulled you out of the line of fire, he lived. He lost a lot of blood, but he survived. The last time you see him is through a thick pane of prison plexiglass. No handcuffs, no guns, just two men. He looks at you, no smile, no anger. He just says one thing: you still have a chance. You don't answer right away, because for the very first time, you understand. A chance isn't something that's just handed to you. It's something you have to bleed for. Years later, you walk out. No tailored suits, no power, just a name, a past, and a choice. You walk back to the exact spot where it all started. The old alleyway, the stench of mildew and rust, the sickly yellow street lamp. The cardboard sign from back then is gone, but you still remember. 5,000 pesos. You stand there for a long, long time. Then, you turn away. Not to run, but to never look back. If you are sitting there thinking that you can dip your toes into that world just once, don't. Because there is no just once. There is only the first time and the last time. You aren't smarter than the machine. They don't need you to be tough. They don't need you to be brilliant. They just need you to be desperate enough. The rest, they will take care of for you, step by step, until you are no longer you. And by the time you finally realize it, the toll you have to pay is no longer measured in cash. It's measured in your life.